How do you respond when your entire world just changed? I'm serious. Think about it for a moment. Weeks ago, you weren't even thinking about social distancing or practicing isolation. Now, how do we network? How do we grow our business? How do we stay connected? Furthermore, how can we be of service during this time? Join our host, Tony Grebmeier, and today's guests as they share their best practices and insights to help you navigate the waters ahead. Welcome to Networking Remote.
Welcome. We're all here. And, first, I just want to say thank you. You missed your wild introduction. We were talking about how gorgeous your hair is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm jealous.
I've been working on it for about a year.
No, I think it's great. Hey, what I wanted to do with this is kind of navigate the waters a little bit and kind of talk about, life after everybody's kind of world kind of got turned upside down, right?
Okay.
So here we are. If we step back a month ago, we were planning for TNC, IMP, Rise 25, and a ShipOffers dinner. That's what I know. I was preparing for TNC, right? And that's like my favorite event of the year. Yeah. Because it brings me all of your events and connections and opportunities. And so what I really wanted to ask first, I want to talk about life in quarantine, social distancing, that kind of stuff for just a few minutes, just to give everybody a glimpse of maybe some of the things that you're doing that maybe potentially could help somebody today. So first and foremost, what changes have you made in working and networking from home? And I thought, we can just do popcorn roll and you can go first. Maybe share a little bit around what changes have you made versus going into if you did have an office?
I mean, nothing really changed for me. I had the, Traffic and Conversion Summit planned and, it's pretty much, nothing. Just, wasn't really any big deal. It was only 10,000 people. I mean, you can reschedule that, no problem. No, for me, it's really funny. I normally travel quite a bit. So I was supposed to be gone the entire month of April. TNC was March 31st, April 1st and 2nd. And then I was off to our War Room Mastermind in Las Vegas and London for meetings on an acquisition that we're doing and a bunch of other stuff. And then that just all went away completely. I had 3 other events, like I think there was one the 16th and 17th of March, 23rd and 24th of March, and so on and so forth. So all that just kind of, got rescheduled. And then, of course, rescheduling all of the people who had paid to attend all those things. We had sponsors, we had VIP things, and I know, David, you had that. And Jeremy, I think you guys have an event you guys do too, right? So it's been really, I'm twice as busy as I normally am because it's just, I guess, there's the reschedule and then there's the get ahead of the cancels because we have a lot of people that pay, to go to events or pay for groups and stuff like that. And it's really just been a lot of reworking things first. Then it was, okay, now we need to pivot. So our revenue at Digital Marketers down about 20%. Revenue at our War Room Mastermind, because TNC is our big event for filling that, is down about maybe 70%, in terms of, you're talking about a $30,000 to $50,000 investment. So it's, okay, well, what's the pivot to be able to keep everybody working and keep the business going and everything. So we pivoted into a free offer for digital marketer, added 60,000 new accounts, 62,000, I think it was, new accounts, pivoted with the live events we're doing. We took War Room virtual. Next week, we're doing that. We've got breakout rooms, registration, all the stuff that you would have at a live event, only live online. And then for the other things, like I have a intensive I do called Leverage, Exit, Grow, Scale. That I'm doing a challenge for right now. A couple of people that I know, Pedro Adeo in particular, and Pete Vargas, told me how great challenges were working. And so I basically did that, and we've got 600 and some people in right now, and it's growing like crazy. So that's going to be kind of a fun pivot. So really what I'm learning is that I'm probably not going to travel quite as much as I did before. I certainly have had more Zooms than I think I would ever want to have, just because, it's a lot of Zooming going on here. And I miss the social. Like, I miss being able to talk with you guys across the table and, in that personal thing, even though we get to be here video wise. So to fix that, we're doing like virtual dinners where we'll open a bottle of wine and we'll invite a couple friends and we'll put 2 computers out and they'll put 2 computers out and you can, have dinner while having your kind of quasi-social, but without the, the physical part. And then just generally, life is giving a tremendous amount of content. I'm lucky we just moved into a new place that we remodeled. So down the street, 5 houses across the street, I have another house that I have a big whiteboard and I've kind of made that an office. And so I have had a few meetings there with consulting clients where they'll come in and stay, 15 feet away or so. And, one person will draw on the whiteboard and that kind of stuff. So it's really just been adapting out of travel into virtual remote teams, new offers, and a lot of rescheduling. Sorry for talking so long.
No, I appreciate it. And I think it's, it's all stuff that we're going to kind of jump into today. So, hey, if you want to pick, you got 2 choices and then we'll leave the last to go. So
you talking about me?
Yeah, you can pick one of the 2 to call. You can call David or Jeremy.
Oh, let's call David because he has beautiful hair.
All right.
Well, thanks. I'm glad it got me something. It's funny because Roland, you started out by saying that you hadn't really changed much. I too had a bunch of travel coming up, and I've noticed that a lot, other than when I'm traveling, that not as much has changed as I would have expected. Obviously we've had to pivot. I'm a part owner in a few different businesses. Most people only know about Internet Marketing Party, but that's really more of a passion project. I run 2 affiliate management agencies, a licensing company, as well as a list monetization company and a health and beauty line. And so all of those things have been a matter of pivoting. And yeah, there's been more Zooms than I care to think about. I'm glad I haven't been Zoom bombed. I'm sure you guys have heard about those.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I haven't noticed a ton. This being called the networking remote series. I do a lot of my work on the phone and on Zoom even before this stuff happened. And sure, I would go to events, obviously hosting Internet Marketing Party every month and going to dinners and whatnot. But I think for me, one of the big shifts that's happened is I've started nicknaming COVID the Great Reveal. Because I don't know about for you guys, but it started revealing things, kind of like when the banks of a river drops, like the banks of the river starts to show like, oh, there's gold there, or there's, random things that throughout the years were captured in the earth. I've been noticing, cracks in certain relationships that I thought were stronger. I've been noticing certain relationships that I've wanted to deepen, being able to really be deepened. Like even that call we had the other night, Tony, was just perfect. It was right at the right time. I missed a FaceTime call, what I thought was random FaceTime call from Tony one morning. I didn't even see it. And then later that evening, as I was preparing for bed, I was just shutting down my phone and I saw a missed FaceTime call. And I just decided to hit the call back, and me and Tony must have had, it was like a 45-minute, just real deep dive into how's life, how's business, how are you, and those are really meaningful. And I think when we're at events, it's not as easy to have those deeper dive conversations with people because someone walks up and goes, hey, how's it going? And all this kind of stuff. So, but overall, I don't know if this is going to sound weird, but my life hasn't changed that much. Yes, I am busier. Yes, tension is higher. I have been finding that self-care is more important than it ever has been. Doing my meditation, finding time to really pay attention to what's the last 2.5-ish days or so, I had what I've been calling a migraine, which is just a really light migraine that would just kind of come and go. And yesterday I was talking with Jamie Masters, And she said, "Oh, I have this 2-minute YouTube video that cures headaches." And I watched it, and it was phenomenal. And I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't been paying attention to certain cues that are, spending more quality time with my family, because we're always here, but there's a difference between always being around and spending, like setting aside quality time, much like Roland was saying, like, hey, let's not just get on a Zoom and have structured meetings. Let's pop open a bottle of wine. Even though you're at your place, I'm at my place. Let's just put the computer there, have our dinner, drink our wine, and engage in a way where there's more organic flow, and you can joke, and you can have that intimate conversation about, I'm really feeling fear about this, or I'm really concerned about these employees or my neighbor across the street. I haven't seen, like the kinds of things like that. So that's my take.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I think it as we're listening, we're all a little different in what we do for our day to day, but I heard it with, Roland's like, hey, maybe I'll travel a little less. I can use technology, Zooms, to kind of help me a little bit more. And then you take, David, you're like, hey, my life hasn't changed that much, but yet it's also been the great reveal, right? It showed us things that we haven't seen necessarily before, because you were even talking about self-care and like really just stopping and saying, hey, how important are these things that they were important before, but now they're actually even more important. And that's the care, like stopping for making sure we're good, because you're the people that I chose to be on this series to kick it off were 3 really well-connected people who I know that might say hi to each other at an event and spend a few minutes and chat, but they're also busy serving and helping so many others. So that was also something that's really, really important that I want to talk about today. And then last up, I want to bring in Dr. Jeremy Weisz, who, some maybe 4 years ago, I got an introduction to talk to Jeremy, and we kicked off a podcast series. And, here's a guy who's had all these amazing interviews on his podcast. And I'm like, you're a chiropractor and you find time to go do this. And then you find time to go run events. And then you find time to transcribe notes. And oh my gosh, like I want to get to know you. And then had multiple dinners with Scott Gray and Ian Garlic, and just really gotten to know this gentle giant who's very quiet. And so I'm glad why he gets to go now. How's it been for you? How's life during the quarantine and the social distancing, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for I love listening to Roland and David. And, for me, life is a lot different, actually. Like David was saying, some people know me in the chiropractic realm. Some people know me as I have an e-commerce business, and then the Rise 25 business where we help produce podcasts. And so I feel like I've experienced the gamut, because the chiropractic business completely shut down. Like Roland, you were saying, like just it's done. It's shut down for now, right? Because you can't go in. So that's going to be shut down for the indefinite future, because Chicago's on lockdown. So if I experienced a complete, like, okay, we're closing the doors. The e-commerce business, there's, maybe 50% of the products sold out in a week and a half because of their food products. And whether that's good or bad, because the supply chain is messed up, I can't replenish them that quick. So does that really matter? Because I sold out 8 months of inventory in a week and a half. It may not matter in the long run anyways. And then the podcasting business is, people right now are wanting to connect more than ever virtually. And I would say anyone right now who I find that the busiest people I know or want to know are not as, or at least they're kind of homebound, and some of them are not as busy. So there's a way to connect with them and give to them. You know what I mean? Whether you're having on, like Tony is on a virtual, like just a meeting or a virtual summit, or Roland, does his interviews, the lunch interviews. You should check out Roland's podcast. Shout out he has amazing guests. And it's just no better time to reach out and connect with people. And what I find is I love the personal side of the conversation. I find I'm getting into those conversations more. It hasn't changed me trying to call like 15 people a day just to see what they're up to. Now they're up to a lot of different things, and they're having to, like Roland, you mentioned pivoting. I mean, I love hearing the pivoting, because all these things people are doing, just thinking of what, opportunities there are, right? Because if you think about it, yeah, like we've all been impacted. I don't care who you are by this. And it's going to affect all of us. And the trickle down is going to be, the ripple effect is going to be huge, in the coming months. And but the people I surround myself with, I know you guys do too, are looking at, and even people have had to, I know, overnight had to lay off 200 people and shut down their whole business. And they are still optimistic, and they're seeing there's an opportunity here, despite what's happening around them, and seeing what are they doing. Like traffic and conversion, we were all going to it. We were going to be exhibitors at traffic and conversion, and we were like, wow, this is going to be awesome. This would be the first time we've ever pay, like we usually will go and we'll do media for the show, and this is the first time we are paying to actually exhibit, because traffic and conversion is that powerful. And then going to David's event, internet marketing party, but and so it was like I was excited, and we were excited to travel and go there, and it's like, oh, we had to change course, and so it's just interesting how seeing people, how they're pivoting with challenges in virtual summits and podcasts, or they're launching new products, digital products that they wouldn't have otherwise. And so I love talking to people and seeing how they're pivoting and changing. But my life has changed a lot, because usually I'll go into an office. I don't work from home. I'll go into an office. My wife does not work from home. She's a child psychologist. She goes in the office. So, David, I love that you guys are in the same house or near each other. And now you could crack up a bottle of wine. Like we actually are just experiencing being near each other like throughout the day. It's pretty cool. The not cool part, I mean, I wouldn't say it's not cool, but it's really tough having young kids and actually being productive. Like, and what I was saying about when I get to talk to people, and, maybe I try and before, 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., try and call like 10 people and just have a conversation with them. It's getting into a lot more, David, like you're saying, the reveal, more personal stuff, because their kids are around, their families are around. So usually it's business, like what's going on in your business. And now it's like, oh, Joey just walked in, here's Joey. And then we start talking more about family stuff than normal, I think, right now. And, my kids will come in, they'll like pop over my shoulder. I'm like, I have hand signals like, no, I'm recording, like, get out. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. Like this work from home thing is definitely interesting. You guys probably have it down by now, and I'm definitely learning how to manage it. It's tough, actually.
Hey, I got a question. Space. I got a question for all three of you, because I love my wife, and she's noticed that I work a lot. She notices now that I'm busier than like when I go to the office, right? And then I come home because I'm locked into the dining room. I mean, my life is totally flipped upside down. She was so great to help me. I went and got all my equipment, brought it here, got my lights, and she made sure that I had some candles and some scenery and everything, so somewhat of a nice background. And how have you got feedback from your partner, your wife, your significant other, of like, do they feel like you're busier now, or is it the same for you? What would be the insight you would get if you were to poll your wife right now? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I feel blessed in that, Holly and I have been married for 21 years. She supported me in almost all the businesses I've ever had. And often, we've worked very closely together throughout that entire time. So, and she's one of the most supportive wives I've ever met. Like when people go, what's your secret for 21 years? I'm like, marry somebody like Holly. Cause
amen, David. That's so true.
Yeah. She's the unique one. And so I mean, like all I can say is I don't think that she would say much. She's been more supportive than ever. In fact, yesterday at dinner, I acknowledged her publicly with my daughter and a friend that's sheltering in place with us here, about how awesome Holly shows up, because she she cooks for us, she cleans for us, she makes sure I have all this big handful of supplements every morning that I take, and here's your water. And I just feel blessed to the moon and back.
No, I love it. When it first started, she always is cooking. She's always making good stuff. Instead of like the freshman 15 when you go off to college, it was like the COVID 30. Like I was gaining so much weight, and it's been so awesome because now we just get to go take more walks. And I've just noticed, like, we attempted lunch, PB&Js and chips the other day out on the driveway, just taking 15, 20 minutes during my day. I don't get that when I go to the office. She's not there. So it's been nice to walk out the room and she's like, hey, how are you? And super supportive, which has just been a blessing. Jeremy, since it is a new normal for you for now, since you said, you're always in the office working, what's it been like?
I think, again, like David was saying, I have an amazing wife, and that makes life so much better, and she is like a superwoman. Like, she has her own, child psychology practice where she has like 7 people working under her, and she's an entrepreneur as well. And she yet does everything with the kids. And so it's been interesting. It's been a change because I feel like I've been working more than I ever have. Actually, she'll come down, notice I'm not in bed at like 2 a.m, and she'll come down. I'm like, get to bed right now. And I'm like,
he doesn't sleep.
I'm doing stuff. I'm sorry. So she's like up worried about me that I'm just doing stuff. But that's just my normal routine. But I have been able to like sneak in, in like you're saying, Tony, in the middle of the day, just like have, a brief, like we have a jump rope, like one of those double Dutch jump ropes. And so we'll take like a 10-minute break, and we'll each do a round on the double Dutch jump rope just in the middle of the day, just to get some activity. And so we'll have just some, like gym, like we were in grade school, right? Just recess and gym, which I would not do that in my office. I'm like, I wear an adult diaper. I don't have to go up to the bathroom and just eat at my desk. I'm like locked and loaded in. And that's what the way it is. But so I have been taking more breaks and things like that. So that it definitely has changed. For sure.
I like that. Hey, Roland, you're up.
Yeah. I'm just, my wife said the other day, she said, I'm just so happy that we like each other. It's certainly helpful to have somebody that you made a good choice with, that you get along with and you love and you like. So for us, my time is, I'm definitely working more than normal because of trying also to help people that are part of our communities and the public generally, just giving, I think this is a time for everybody to give. So when you add that into everything else that you're doing, and to move, and my wife has been sick for about 2 months. So it's not with COVID, but she gets kind of a thing that lasts a couple months every year. That's a cough, cold type thing. So, so we're hanging out here, but we always have lunch. Family's very, very important to me. So I do lots and lots of business stuff, but also, the kids come over, and so we've just replaced the family stuff that we do going out with being here. And we're lucky because, we have seductive things to bring the kids in. We've got ping pong tables and pool tables and a golf course and tennis courts and all those kinds of things that, give them reasons, because God forbid that they just came and saw us. But it's been really great as far as being able to spend time with everybody. But it is definitely, you got to be with somebody you like, and somebody that's understanding, like your wife bringing all your stuff in and then making your space cool, and so my wife is like that too. It's just having somebody that cares about you and you care about them. And like Jeremy was saying, his wife comes and is like, you're up at 2, come to bed. My wife is used to that because I'm a vampire. I don't ever sleep anyway. So, so it's not really that different, my life at home, only that I'm home more. And I'm not going out like normally I would run errands during the day while on the phone and stuff like that. So, I'm not going to get the mail every day. I'm not going to the grocery store every day. We're not going out to, to lunch every day. That kind of stuff has changed because you want to be, in and not exposed or exposing people to stuff.
So I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And I think it's really cool that we're all spending a little bit today talking about networking, and some individuals watching this are stuck, right? Their life, their business, it's that maybe the business that they had is gone. Maybe some of the connections and calls have dried up, and they're struggling. And I know for this guy, I don't do well in isolation. I'm not somebody. I need energy. I feed off of. I walk into a room, you three. It's like Christmas for me. I'm like unwrapping presents. I'm like, I got 30 seconds. Share what you got. Tell me what's coming. I need that vibe, because that's for me. That's it. I do really, really well off of energy. So, what would you tell somebody? Our Facebook dropped, but we're recording in Zoom thanks to Jeremy. So we'll push this back out there and get better with technology. But what would you tell somebody who's listening, who hasn't raised their hand and said, I need help? What are maybe some practical kind of ideas that come to mind that you could share that could be insightful to get somebody today to take action? And just ponder that thought for a moment. I would love Jeremy to share, then we'll go Roland, then we'll go David. So just love everybody to kind of just share a glimpse. The thing that I know to be true, I've said this for a long period of time. You're not weak for asking for help. It's actually a sign of your greatness. But some people are so fearful that they don't know how to take that next move. So Jeremy, what would you say?
Well, the first thing is, like you were mentioning, just Roland mentioned this too, just give as much as humanly possible. So what I do is, the funny thing is I start with a little bit of humor, and what's changed the most is actually, I've never been so into memes in my entire life, these like COVID memes. And so I started with humor, and I just looked through my Rolodex and texted people, like almost every single person, and just with a short message of what's going on with me, and then like some funny meme just to like lighten the mood. And then I would try to get on as many conversations as possible and start with being vulnerable. Like, because I feel like sometimes we get on conversations and I've never seen, Tony G, anyone better than you, is getting on and just being vulnerable and saying what we're struggling with, because until we get to that point, we can't get help because people don't know. And so I learned that from you actually in a big way, is get on the phone and just, I'm vulnerable first, saying, listen, my office shut down. The kids are all over me. It's really hard to get work, be productive during the day. Like, how's your life? And I feel like once you reveal first, like some of the stuff I'm struggling around, and it makes it okay for them to share with me, and then we can help each other. Right. And so just having those conversations and reaching out to people and continuing to have those conversations. Sometimes it's just like David, you said, just texting the people in my network and just saying hello. We can't get on the phone with every single person, but try to. And I think of it as come with being vulnerable, showing the struggle, they show the struggle, be vulnerable. And then how can we help each other? And like you were saying, well, how are you going to pivot? How am I going to pivot? And we come up with brainstorming ideas to pivot in this day and age, and then bring in that into the next conversation. Like, okay, now my next conversation, Roland is doing challenges, like maybe look at challenges around your type of business or whatever it is, and bringing that into every conversation and kind of almost creating this knowledge base that is helping. And for me, I always try and get off a call and make an introduction that's going to help that person. That's just what, there's always someone out there in my network. I mean, all of us can't solve all the issues, but I guarantee you between the four of us, we know someone who can. And after that call, I always try and follow up with, here's like maybe the one or two or three people that you should talk to next, and just pass the torch that will help them in whatever their struggle is. So that's just what I try and do, is find out what that struggle is, what the problem is, and then make an introduction to help with that.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I know Roland's got a lot of great insight as well. So Roland, what would you say?
Well, I'd actually like to hear yours because I know you've got some brilliant things too, and I don't want to cheat the people who are listening out of one of the smartest of the four of us that's here. So would you mind sharing yours as well? And then David and I can share?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, the interesting part for me, I have taken a lot of calls of late, and that's why it's on my heart. And to be taking a stand and just listen. I realize that a lot of people feel, I'll get a little emotional, but feel like everything that they knew, all their day-to-day life, family. I don't have somebody that I personally know, like in my immediate family, but I've got friends who've lost loved ones, who are struggling, and I just listen. I think that that's the hardest thing for me, but the best thing for me right now is to listen, to let somebody share, to just get whatever they're feeling off of their chest. And then I liked what Jeremy said. I think that's really, really magical too. Right. We are very blessed, and we have Rolodexes of relationships that we can tap into. I mean, in 30 seconds, I could go over to the Business Lunch podcast with Roland, and I could scroll through and do a keyword search and try to find somebody who, how to start all over and find somebody who's done it. I could go to Jeremy and say, I have no money and I want to start a business, and find somebody who can do it. I could reach out to David and say, do you know somebody? And he's like, yes, connect this. And so taking my connecting superpowers, so to speak, and using them, but first listening. And that's been huge. The thing that has made the biggest move, even just in the last 2 days for me, is taking somebody on a walk. I took a walk yesterday morning for 55 minutes with somebody, and today for 40 minutes. And that has helped me so much. I've already moved over 210 minutes by the time this episode aired in the morning. I already got out and enjoyed the world because I never stopped to see the birds. I never stopped to do anything. I am head down workaholic. And so for me, listening to them has been really helpful. And you know what most people are saying that I'm hearing is not that I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do. It's just everything now in my world just seems like there's so much pressure. There's so much pressure, and everybody seems so much in pain. And it's hard because my friends like you, we live in a different world. I'm not saying it in an arrogant way or a cocky way. It's just, I've been mobile in tech since I was as young as I can remember. And I've always been a connector. But most of the people that are reaching out to me are not sending me a text message. Do you have 5 minutes? Can I ask you a question? Hey, can I pick your brain? They're legitimately like, I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. I wonder if you could just talk to me. And those for me have been the things that remind me to be of service.
Is there a common thing, Tony, that you find that you can tell them that helps them to feel better?
Yeah. I mean, I think the common thing has always been is to get out a piece of paper and write gratitude, put something down on paper, like just get the simplest thing. And I got my dog laying beside me. This is one of the greatest gifts. My son from his freshman year of college is home. My other kid out in California, his girlfriend's mom invited him to travel. And so they left California, went to Utah, and they're hunkered down. The common theme is connection. Help people to be as connected as possible. So for me, getting connected to my source is getting into gratitude and realizing, you know what, like it's bad, but man, we're going to get through this. Our friends in Italy, reaching out to them and talking to them as frequently as possible. Connection, just stay connected to people. So gratitude first, connection second. So I think that's the theme that I hear is most people don't know what to do. And I'm like, get into gratitude. It changes everything. It really does. And people are like, I don't have a lot of money in the bank. I'm like, at least you have a bank. I'm like, what's a lot of money? Because maybe when's the last time you haven't gone a day without food? When's the last time that you haven't had the lights on in your house? When's the last time you haven't had gas in your car? When's the last time your phone didn't work? I mean, there's so many easy ways to get into gratitude. Yeah. So I appreciate you asking. And, I think today in this journey, I'm super blessed and grateful. You all said yes to coming on. I mean, what this is going to do for the next several weeks as we unleash these is give people a glimpse into what else is going on in the world besides themselves. Because then if I can get out of my head and into somebody else's heart, I'm in a much better place. So Thank you.
I agree. And that's it for me too, is It's gratitude. You've got to think about what you've got, and then be grateful. Even, I like when I do in the morning the 3 gratitudes. One of the things that I always do is something I think of, what is something that I take for granted, and it'll be very basic. Like, I can see, I can walk. I mean, that's like, how many times do we think about how many people can't do that, and how freaking amazing it is that we have that gift, and how dare we be upset that this other thing isn't going right because we can freaking walk or hear or see, or God forbid, all 3, right? And if you can start with one thing like that, and then one person that you're grateful for, and then go to just kind of one other thing you're grateful for, then I think that's the place to start. The second place is just taking the time to think. I've always taken time to just think, and Keith Cunningham wrote a book about it recently called The Road Less Stupid, where he talks about it. You can read it or skip the whole thing and just say, hey, take time to think. But that's really important. And if you take time to think as opposed to being reactive, and just say, you think on a problem. I think it was both Nikolai Tesla and Salvador Dali that used to have, they'd sit in kind of in a chair, and they'd put a metal plate underneath them and hold ball bearings, and just kind of get into that half dream state, which is supposed to be the most creative state you can be in. And then if they fell asleep, they'd drop the balls, which would wake them up again and get them back into that state. And that was how they thought about solving problems. And if you actually pick a problem to work on, and you let your subconscious work on it, then you're much more likely. Like, how many times have you had a problem that you just couldn't solve, and then you're, walking the dog or something like that, and it just comes to you? Well, it's because it's been going through that kind of collective conscious, subconscious supercomputer that we've all got between our ears. And if you can stop being freaked out and panicking long enough to actually say, I own a restaurant and now I can't have people anymore. What can I do? And then you think on that. I know one down the street turned into a grocery store. They're like, you know what? Groceries are hard to get, and most of them kind of suck. So we're a high-end vegan restaurant. We're going to make all this stuff available as grocery takeout. They went and got an e-commerce store up that they hadn't had before. They're doing touchless window deliveries. They're sending stuff out through delivery people to Postmates or one of the Uber Eats. And they're sending out kits, and then doing, hey, let's cook together with a virtual class on a Zoom. So, hey, now you've got all your ingredients that we sent you. Now I'm going to show you how we do this. The secret is blah, blah, blah. Right? They solved the problem that they could be freaking out about and say we're all out of business, or they can pivot on it because they took the time to think. So that and then just reaching out, like Jeremy said. There's so many opportunities in your telephone. Like, if I go through once a month the last 100 messages or 200 or however many that it keeps, and I'm stunned at how many things I just forgot to follow up on, right? It's like insane amount of opportunity there. And then if all else fails and everything's gone to hell, then to me it's what you said, Tony, which is that just reaching out to other people. And I think Jeremy said it too, reaching out to other people. And I'm trying to think of how the person who can't ask for help does this. Well, to me, the person who can't ask for help can typically give help, because usually people that can't ask for it are overgivers. So then reach out and give, and you will see opportunities as you reach out and help the other people that are going through challenges. As you're talking through them, it's therapeutic for you. So you're leading them back to sanity and optimism. And in the meantime, through all those people that you're helping, you're going to feel good about helping. And I can't even imagine that there's not going to be some opportunities, because they're going to say, how are you doing? Well, then you didn't even have to ask, right? So if you want to be the evil, most manipulative Machiavellian person in the world, help other people, and then they'll want to help you, right? You don't even have to ask.
Two things that came up with your share that I think are super powerful, that I think anybody listening today could grab. Opportunities are endless, and so are the distractions. Right? So we got to focus our focus. We have to try to figure it out. And that brings me to the second part, which is fight or flight. And so many of us need to learn how to stay, right? Like it's hard because we want to go because that's what we are, or people on the move, right? A human doer or a human being. And we're so busy that we need to stop for a moment and just be. And if I am still enough, I get in a sense of an immense gratitude from you.
Yeah.
I can feel it and I can understand it because my brain never shuts off. It's always thinking, even when you're in sleeping, right? I texted David last night and he texted me back a photo. He's like, I'm chilling on the couch. Like, I don't have Facebook, but for you, I'll get up and I'll go talk about it. And I'm like, and I just send him back a meme and we just laugh. Like, there, you have to set guidelines for yourself. And I think one of them needs to be stay. Don't make a move necessarily right off the bat. But I love what you said, Roland. Think. There's a lot of people smarter than me out there. What would they be doing right now if they had a restaurant? And I loved what you gave. David?
Yeah, well, I'm going to start mine off by doing a quick screen share about you. You were talking about the freshman 15 and the COVID 30. Here's let's do this real quick. Boom, this right here.
David.
So,
I need people like you in my life to make me laugh. Jeez.
all right. So
I've never loved memes so much in my life. Yeah.
it's just a callback to Jeremy's meme.
Yeah.
Meme love. So the thing that showed up for me, because I had this enormous list, and I'm like, which one of these should I pick? So I really appreciate that you asked Roland, like, what's the pattern you've seen in what's helped people the most in getting unstuck for you, Tony? But what showed up for me in listening to all of yours is one word, and that's perspective. The thing that all of your helps for the person that's stuck accomplishes is giving them a different perspective. Yeah. And to speak into the thinking time, Henry Ford had a saying, and it was, thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason so few engage in it. So considering that not only is it very hard work, but it is very worthwhile, leads me to what I would have someone do that is really feeling stuck, and that is lean into what it is that you're feeling stuck about, because almost always it's going to have a foundation in fear, and fear has its foundation in unknown, and there's so much unknown right now, it's not even funny. So if you can focus on what is known in your life, there are things that are known, and then you can even do the gratitude around those things later. But there are things that you know, and there are things like, what are my expenses the last month, the last 2 months? And then you can track those things and put them into 4 categories. The first category is, I absolutely need this. This is essential. The second category is, I really, really want this, but if I have to cut it, I will. The third is, at this point in time, this has to go. And the fourth is, what the fuck is this? We all have those things that went on, we didn't realize we're going to go on recurring or whatnot. And so just know, what are your expenses? Put them in those 4 categories, and then look at, how much money do I have in the bank? And even if it scares the bejesus out of you, know how many weeks, how many months into the future can you live, even if you had no more income come in? Then what do you and can you know about the different grants that are being given and the forgivable loans, and start focusing on what you can know. And then of course the perspective change. But there's so much. There's so much more I could. And then the other thing I wanted to share regarding anyone who is going to reach out and is afraid to ask for help or doesn't know how to do that. I think all of us are familiar with good old Michael Roderick, who's also a super connector. And I learned from him this cool thing. He puts everyone that he meets and has conversations with into an A, B, C, D category. And the A are advocates, and those are people who are supportive and thoughtful. B are boomerangs, people who are focused on reciprocity. It's like, hey, I'm going to give you, but you're going to give me back. And then there's C, which are clients and celebrities, or who, people you just, they've let you know they want you to work for them, and are people that's fancy to know, like you want to do stuff for them. And then there's drains. There are people who are needy at that particular moment. And then, and the thing to consider, and the reason I brought that quadrant up, is that we all have the capacity of being a drain at different points in time. If we found out that our beloved pet has to be put down today, we're going to be in a low point, and we're going to be a drain at that point. I'm sure even as resourceful and connected and dynamic as all four of us, even like I would say Roland has the biggest reach and the biggest, businesses and all this, the day that you had to decide we're pulling the plug, I'm sure that day there were people in your life that you were a drain for. And that's not that just recognizing, for the person who's listening right now that's stuck, it's okay that you're a drain right now. The question is, how soon can you become an advocate, and can you reach out to your advocates so that you're once again in the A, B, or C column? So that's what comes up for me. And but the main thing is, recognize that no matter how stuck you are, it's just a matter of shifting your perspective to use any of the tools that we've given here. And I think the most important for me is lean into whatever it is that you're feeling the most fear, the most stuck, and just be with it, be still with it. And that's what comes up.
No, it's powerful. I mean, I love the drain, and I love the fact that it's okay to be stuck. It's just not okay to stay there. Right? If you have a drain in your house and you've ever left something long enough in the drain, it stinks, and you just don't want to stay there, right? You want to do something about it. And so call a plumber, call somebody today, but don't stay there, right? And it's okay to, I think as I kind of want to wrap today, I have one last kind of question I'd love insight around. You all were planning something to allow people space to come and network. Internet marketing party, Rise 25, digital marketer, traffic and conversion, everything that everybody knew. I was hosting an event, a dinner. I was going to advertise. We were showing up. We were going to be at TNC. We had a booth. We had all these things. What are you doing now to stay persistent and consistent to maximize the next event you attend? How do you keep your list going? How do you keep them filled with hope? How do you instill new perspective and opportunity? I think as we recap everything today, everybody, I want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for jumping on and giving a little bit of your time. I hope one person listening today hears something they need and they take massive action. The reality for all three of us as guests, and myself included, is I love what David said, perspective. We need to shift. The shift has been the biggest word. I wish I would have used it today to describe what we're in. We're in a shift. Roland described a pivot. I can tell that our master note taker, Jeremy's got a ton of stuff that he's written down today. It's right there. He's taking notes. And I know that I can always get something of a meme from David that is going to make me be a moment in, just like reflect on where I'm at. Like, it's a journey. There's nowhere to get. But as you go about your day and the weeks and preparing for your next big thing, what is maybe a tactic that you're using right now that's been super helpful for you? Roland discussed it a little bit, but I kind of want to get it from all of you. What is something you're doing to keep your list warm? Jeremy's talking about, calling 10 people a day in the morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do that, but I don't know if I could do 10 in a row. I just think I would go crazy. And then I love Roland's reflection of looking at all the people that reached out to him. But what are you doing? What is something maybe, David, that you're doing right now to stay in front of your people?
Well, I've got to kind of fall on my sword here. In that, one of the things that I realized yesterday after I did this YouTube video process that got rid of my migraine, because it showed me what it was. And one of the things was that I was pulling the ostrich technique. I was just kind of like, hey, mine's just the internet marketing party. It's, $39, $49. It's not that big a deal. Like, people are worried on bigger things. And yesterday my wife pulled me aside and she goes, hey, today, tomorrow would be the day internet marketing parties happen, and they haven't heard anything from you. And I I'm not proud of this, but I was just kind of focusing on my primary businesses and just kind of thinking like, well, all the other folks doing internet marketing related businesses are hosting summits and pivoting their masterminds to online and digital this and virtual that. And I just felt like I don't really want to be a me too. So admittedly, I haven't done much in that specific realm in where, like, you know, because I think you invited me here because of the whole internet marketing party thing.
I invited you because I love you and I love the fact that you're raw.
I get it. And the context as well, you know, it was that. And I just want to just kind of come clean and say, like, I think that's what, you know, I really believe that when we get a headache or some sort of physical ailment, it's a, you know, mind body connection. And that was my mind's way of saying, hey, fucko, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, wake up. You know, you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your team and your clients, but you've got a community that you've built and they're just like, where's Dave? What's going on? And yeah, I'm not proud of that, but I'm changing that. And
let me say thank you for being just who you are. That's why I love you, because you know, there's no perfectness. None of us are perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. And I don't look at it as a mistake. I learn it as a valuable lesson. I need to remind myself that our people need to hear from us. They're looking to be led today. Our people, the people who show up in our lives. And thank you for reminding me to make sure that I stay congruent in my leadership role. And I really just want to say thank you for being vulnerable, because your vulnerability today of saying the ostrich, it's going to help somebody. It helped me. Yeah. I just want to say thank you.
And it was not easy because Roland is one of the most, you know, beaconish people in our industry that I hold in such high regard. And admittedly, Roland, when you were talking at the beginning about how we've done this and pivoted that, and I watched your video the other day on how you're buying all these businesses and teaching people how to do it. And in that was 2 days ago when I saw that. And right around that time is when my headache had already started. And I was just feeling like, fuck, man, I'm like, it was kind of like watching Michael Jordan and me being like, you know, Pee Wee League in basketball and thinking like, you know, this isn't a right or wrong or anything like that. It was just like, so it was not easy to say what I just did, but thank you for creating the space for me to put it out there.
And thank you for being you, because if it wasn't for you, I never would have met Roland. It was because I showed up at one of your amazing give backs where you just want to help people in Austin. And I got a chance to meet Roland. I'd seen him before many times. And I believe we were talking about the Best Self Journal. We were talking about Alan Brower and Catherine. And we were just sitting there. And at the end, there was Ron Lynch and a couple other people, Gonzalez. And then I met Roland for the very first time. And I just said, hey, dude, I really want to be a part of War Room and what you're up to. And he's like, hey, I'll get my people to talk to you. And then we just talked for a few minutes because it was like the connection was made. And then he's like, hey, how are you? So I want to say you're in my life, not just because you're an amazing dude, but because you're a real person and you show up the way you just did. So thank you for that. So, Roland.
You are a leader, David. I mean, you've introduced probably more people within our industry than anybody I know. And so you're not a me too. You're a me too if you have no personality, but you could say you're a me too because you have events, and people held events 1,000 years ago. Right. But that's bullshit, because it's, you are the leader. You are the person. You said beacon, you're the beacon that people look to. And so I think it's okay for you to be stunned a little bit when everything happens. That's okay. Right. And then you gotta, as you said, you gotta say, you know, hey, okay, now it's time to get out there. And that happened to me too. I mean, I got TNC, I got 3, you know, events immediately before TNC. I'm moving houses and, you know, and 6 other things. And then they're like, you know, yeah, no, you can't do any of that stuff. What? No. What do you mean the United States is closed? What? So it took me about a week to say, you know, and I'm hard on myself like you are, and I'm sure you guys are. And I was like, you know, well, shit. Because that's, you know, like for us, that's just TNC is about $6.5 million of revenue, you know, from that one little event that powers a lot of things. And I was like, huh, And so I looked to other people who were, who were out there even faster than I was, for sure, who were doing things like Dan Martell and a few other guys, and that made me say, just like you've got to say to yourself, it made me say, I've got a group of people that look to me in War Room or friends or whatever, and I need to step up and rise to the occasion and be a leader, and help these people, just like Jeremy and Tony and you do privately. We have to do that publicly too, because the more we can give the public confidence that it's okay to be a little bit stunned, and it's okay to be confused, but you got to be positive and you got to get out there and do stuff. The faster we get everybody to the other side of this, the faster we restart the economy. And that's our responsibility. So, and you can do that, man. You got a voice, you've got a message, and it's not fair to not share that with everybody.
Thank you, Roland. That means more than you know.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
I mean, David, that's what I wrote down for you too. Like, oh my God, you're so hard on yourself. I mean, I guarantee you, you're like, yeah, I've, been ostrich. I guarantee you haven't, one, because you've probably been talking to a lot of people, maybe not publicly, but privately. You've probably been talking to a ton of people. I can't see you not talking to people and helping them, so I am positive that you're being really hard on yourself with that falling on your sword, because you have really high expectations of yourself, and you hold your network in high regard. So,
which is why you're successful, which is why we're all hard on ourselves, right? Yeah. It's okay. It's okay to be hard on yourself.
Yeah.
All right. We got an impromptu hot seat. So, Jeremy, you're up.
So yeah, I think I'm really bad at, like Roland, you just said, as David said about you out of all people are amazing at just sharing the knowledge and the wealth of knowledge that you have with everyone, and giving people that the stuff that they need. I was like David was, I was watching the video this morning. I was looking at the post you made about, how do you help people? How do you fuel the economy and buy businesses or help businesses this time? And I watched Todd Herman's video of talking about him using your stuff to buy a business, which is going to help that business, help that entrepreneur, and just have a positive ripple effect as opposed to negative. And I'm really terrible at sharing things publicly. Like I just tend to reach out privately and have one-on-one conversations more than public. So Tony G, I appreciate you allowing me, and honored that you have me on here, because I usually don't do these things. I'm just, totally comfortable being behind the scenes, or if I'm interviewing someone, just asking the questions and not, talking about what's on my mind. So thank you for that opportunity. So I need to be better about that. But that's what I've been doing. That's just reaching out. And like you said about appreciation and gratitude, it's a perspective of, I always think, for me, what in your life, like you mentioned, Roland, I wrote down, I can see, I can walk, I can breathe. I could just say those three things every single morning. Like, I think everyone should. And what comes to my mind, what I say every day is, my grandfather was in the Holocaust and was a Holocaust survivor. And I just think of every day, well, at least someone didn't burn a building and I had to live in the woods for 3 weeks and someone was trying to hunt and kill me. Okay, so that's the perspective I have of things aren't there. Like, I'm not dealing with that. So, okay, I have food. I'm not being chased or like for my life. I'm okay. And so that's my perspective. When this stuff hits, I'm like, well, at least I didn't have to deal with that. And that's my perspective, I
love it. Thank you so very much. Everybody's got other places to be today. So on behalf of Jeremy Weisz, David Gonzalez, and Roland Frasier, my name is Tony Grebmeier, and this has been a Networking Remote series. Thank you so very much. And wherever you go, no matter what you do, choose to make today the absolute best day.
Thanks for listening to the Networking Remote. Remember, you are not alone. Stay connected.